started at 7 o'clock this morning. We ran just over 50 miles from Huntsville here. This run wasn't for us. That's not what we ran for. Every mile out there, every drip of sweat and every scrape that we got by falling out of an RV, that was blood and sweat that we gave to those who aren't here. I am very, very grateful to Chief Smith and Chief Wright. Having the truck out front and driving up to that was beautiful. When we have miles that we run and we don't see someone there, it's a little disheartening to not see a community come out. And it wasn't like that when we pulled in here. At Section, there was a good group as we ended at the park, and then pulling up here and seeing all of you here. This is heartwarming, and we're so grateful. Do you want to speak before Chief Smith?
No.
Okay, Chief Smith, if you and Chief Wright would like to come up. You all know them. I don't have to introduce them.
Well, as the chief of police, I normally don't speak in events and private because I really hate it. Not very good at public speaking things, but I'm honored that you guys are here. I'm a big supporter of our vets, and especially for the fallen. I wish there was more that we could do for you as a police department. But we are honored, and the city of Rainsville is honored that you're here, and we're grateful that you're here. We're grateful for the amazing thing that you're doing. Now, I've got a big mouth. I'm sure you'll figure that out before the night's over, and I've been telling everybody I can to get as many people out here for y'all tomorrow. But just know that the city of Rainsville and the police department behind you 100%. If you need anything, you don't hesitate to ask, and we'll do what we can do. And with that, I'll let Chief Wright say something.
Chief Wright, Rainsville Fire Department. We do appreciate you folks running, honoring our fallen. It's very important for this country, and we're glad you're here in Rainsville. And again, echo what Chief Smith said. If there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. Thank y'all.
And I'm now going to introduce you to the brain behind this entire event, George Letts. He is the creator of Honor and Remember, and him and his very small but very insanely powerful team created the Run for the Fallen. So, George.
What an amazing opportunity to be here in Rainsville. Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to come through the town and be escorted. And also, I echo what Amanda said about the truck, the fire truck out there. What a beautiful sight to be able to, because we're driving in. We finished up at the top of the hill, and we're driving in, and we're going, wow, look at that beautiful truck. Look at that flag. Is that for us? Is that for us? We're driving closer and closer. It looks like it might be for us. And so it was really cool to turn into the Super 8 and see that it was. So thank you so much for that welcome. It's just amazing. I'll explain a little bit about what we're doing. I won't be too long-winded tonight, but we wouldn't be here and have the accomplishment of the day, of the last 2 days, without Amanda and Missy. They've taken the reins in Alabama. And when we started this planning 2.5 years ago, we were plotting our states and trying to figure out what areas we were going to go through and all of what was going to happen. And we didn't have a lot of state captains at that point. We're going, okay, well, we don't know anybody in this state. We don't know anybody in this state. And honestly, Alabama was one of the ones we were worried about. It was like, we don't know anybody in Alabama. What are we going to do? And these two just jumped right in, and oh my gosh, just took over and made everything happen so smoothly, and just really went above and beyond. I mean, we've been compromising and making adjustments, as we go, and they're like, we got it, and they sure did. So thank you so much. I have a day to go in Alabama, so
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. But, I started an organization 10 years ago called Honor and Remember. And short story to that was, it was established to bring national remembrance to our fallen military. That was its main purpose, a way to bring national remembrance to those who don't get it, to that 90% of the population who really don't understand what the military do, but enjoy the freedoms of our military every single day. And I thought, well, we need to do something to kind of give America some way of being grateful. And not only for the men and women who are losing their lives, but for the families who are still with us. Because those men and women are gone. And although we carry them in our hearts, those families, America doesn't have any clue that they have families that are grieving and will be grieving for the rest of their lives. And I thought, hey, one really cool thing would be to get America to, in some maybe silent way, be able to say thank you in a big, enormous way. And that was with the creation of the Honor and Remember flag. A flag of remembrance, a national symbol of remembrance, by which whenever anybody flew it, anybody displayed it, it would send a message to a family who has lost a loved one that says, oh, they're making a statement that I get, I understand, and I can appreciate that, and hopefully bring a little bit more healing. Well, fast forward to this year, and as I mentioned that we have been planning this for 2 years, but one of the most important ways we can remember as a nation is to remember the name of an individual of any variety, of any sort. I can tell you that in the fire department, in the police department, when you guys have fallen brothers, you remember them by name, right? And that's the way you remember them. I've seen signs coming through down the highways, especially about fallen police officers, which is just thrills me and warms my heart to see that a name is not forgotten. And so we thought as an organization, we already are trying to get a national symbol of remembrance. One of the best ways that we can remember is to call those names out loud. So we came up with a plan to gather every name that we possibly could who died during the War on Terror. So we took the date October 12, 2000, which was before 9/11, and it was actually began with the bombing of the USS Cole in Yemen of that year. And you know, 9/11 was almost a year later. And we gathered, working with a lot of organizations, including the government, every name that we could of every service member who died from that period forward. And it came, and then we put them into a database, and then we divided them out by the day that they died. And then after that, we put a search engine together and then started blasting it out to every veterans group and every military installation and every Gold Star family that we could to go to the website and search for their hero. We've been saying this over and over and over. Go to the website and search for your hero. Because if your hero wasn't there, you could add them. Because the Department of Defense, for instance, does not account for every military death, not to the public. And so we wanted to make sure that not only those that died in battle, but those that died while serving in any capacity would be recognized. And we've even included those who died after their service if they had succumbed to the hidden wounds of post-traumatic stress. So we created what we hoped was the largest fallen service member database for military in the world, probably even beyond our government. And then we put them on a tribute trail across America so that we could call their names out loud and they would not be forgotten. And on top of that, we put it onto a live feed so that anybody in the world could listen and watch us call those names out loud across America. So our journey became, with all of the numbers of heroes that we had and all the dates of death that we had to account for, a 5-month journey of 120 days through 19 states. This is state 15, I believe, and over 6,000 miles. And we hoped that we would call out every single service member who gave their life. And not only that, but we're still losing lives. We had another casualty notification today. There was a friendly fire, an inside fire incident in Afghanistan just yesterday. And so even that individual will be added to the end of our run, to the point where when we end in Arlington Cemetery on August the 5th, we started on April 7th. When we end on August the 5th, we hope that we will be able to name the very last service member who gave their life for this country. And it will be the most comprehensive tribute trail ever conceived in this country and ever executed. And you are here in an historic moment, because it's not going to happen again. It's way too complex, way too many people. And this is a once in my lifetime anyway, opportunity to honor every one of these men and women. Why? Because we hope that we could get enough attention in this country that maybe our citizens would start to connect not numbers and statistics, but individual names and stories and heroes. And so this is our journey. We are 93 days into our journey. We have ran 4,244 miles, thank you, in the last 93 days. Today alone, we ran for 118 service members over 50 miles. Over 50 miles today. And so it's a huge, huge journey. To date, we have called out the names of 17. There's a few numbers in there that I don't remember, forgive me. But we have called out the names of 17,000 service members in the last 93 days. And so I don't know that that's ever been done before. We actually, last night, I was just really tickled because we stopped in a running shop and had our ceremony like this in an actual running shop. And what really, I think of the right word for it, honors me, and hopefully those that are with us, is that we're able to read names in places that probably never had a service member's name read in it. You know, like here. I doubt very many people have read the names of fallen service members in the Super 8. in a conference room like this. And so what are we able to do? We're able to speak out loud the names of these men and women who have given all so that we can be here at this moment in time. And so it's very, very important to us what we're doing. We take it very, very seriously. I mentioned that we do a live feed. How many people have seen that live feed? Okay, a good portion of you have. Good. And then, of those who haven't seen the live feed, how many have been at a marker and seen what we did at a marker? Okay. So, most everybody. So what we're doing is we're calling ceremoniously at every stop the names of fallen heroes who've died on a certain date of death. Starting with the USS Cole, every unique mile is a new date of death. And we're running right now for the year 2013. So we started in 2000, and we're running through 2013 right now on our travels across. I believe we have 27 more days before we reach Arlington Cemetery. And you all are invited. There's a ceremony in Arlington Cemetery. If you've never been, it'll probably be one of the most powerful moments you'll ever experience. At 2 o'clock on August the 5th. Okay. One of the things we do at the end of every night, which is just very, very precious to us, is we reread the names of those that we ran for that day. And I explain it this way, the same way every night. When we're out there on the road reading those names, we have a live feed. We don't know who's watching. It could be one person. It could be 10,000 people. We have no idea how many people may be watching. So it's important that we say those names out loud again. So we're actually reading not 20,000 names, we're actually reading 40,000 names. But because On the Road is so noisy, and very, very often it is so noisy, we can't even hear ourselves, when a big old truck goes by, because we can't anticipate those trucks. And therefore, we want to make sure that in a very quiet place, we're able to hear those names. And the third reason is because you get to hear them with us, and you get to actually be the representation of the families who aren't with us. So as we read these names, I want you to read them, or hear them with the idea that they could be your family, and maybe they are your family. And the one thing before I ask my runners to come and read is that is that you silence your cell phones. Please make sure that all your cell phones are silent, because it's embarrassing to have your phone go off and break the solemnness of the moment that we are going to take. So if you're going to read, come up here, please. So Kristen Wilson.
The dates that we ran for today were January 29th through April 1st of 2013. Private Timothy Lima Torres, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Richard Michael Washik, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Michael W. Strand, United States Army. Sergeant Tracy Jerome Christmas, United States Army. Sergeant Major Jonathan David Burkhalter, United States Army. Sergeant Timothy DeFoy Stelter, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Robert Morris Boggs, United States Army. Captain Gonzalo Rafael Garcia, United States Army. Specialist Michael Anthony Gorman, United States Army. Senior Airman DeLone Neman Artley III, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Bo Bronson Schreiber, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer 2nd Class Whitney LaRock Powell, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Charles Henry Martin Jr., United States Army. First Lieutenant Arthur Marion Glass, United States Air Force. Corporal Michael Arthur Pruez, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Juan Pablo Aldaz, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Jacob Daniel Wellman, United States Army. Specialist James Anthony Beck, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer 2 Charlie Morgan, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Jennings Green, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Emmanuel Diaz Lorenzo, United States Army.
Specialist Robert Louis Barnwell, U.S. Army. Specialist Ryan David Blake, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Joshua A. Berry, U.S. Army. Captain Leotaris Balcianis, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Jason Ryan Miller, U.S. Air Force. Sergeant Kimberly Ruth Walker, U.S. Army. Senior Airman John Edward King II, U.S. Air Force. Senior Airman Robert Francis Neal, U.S. Air Force. Master Sergeant Jeffrey Allen McCroskey, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Michael William Canada, U.S. Army. Sergeant Stephen J. Keys, U.S. Marine Corps. Corporal Robert Eric Sonnenberg III, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Jonathan D. Davis, U.S. Marine Corps. Sergeant Bradley Paul Rogers, U.S. Army. Specialist Mark Douglas Blakely, Jr., U.S. Army. Master Sergeant Charles Eugene Tucker, Jr., U.S. Army. Petty Officer First Class Will Thomas Patterson III, U.S. Navy.
Specialist Sean Ryan Huff, U.S. Army.
Commander Francis Thomas Williams, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Jacob John Lanigan, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant Caleb Michael Medley, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer First Class James Eugene Ryer, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Patrick Darren Wayne Poor, United States Army. Master Sergeant Jordanes Belisaro, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Brett M. Pockler, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Jacob Henry Wu, United States Army. Sergeant James Milton Fleming, United States Army. Specialist Corey Ryan Smathers, United States Army. First Lieutenant Samuel Gerhard Smith, United States Air Force. Corporal Jarek James Watkins, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Donovan Tyree Batterson, United States Army. Tech Sergeant Larry D. Bunn, United States Air Force. Chief Petty Officer Lorenzo, Lockenlau Perino, United States Navy. Specialist Cody D. Suggs, United States Army.
Staff Sergeant Rene Alfonso Morales Garcia, United States Air Force. Petty Officer Third Class Christopher Anthony Kluber, United States Navy. Petty Officer First Class Russell Warren Edwards III, United States Navy. Tech Sergeant Brad Eric Brown, United States Air Force. Captain Sarah M. Knudsen, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Rex L. Scad, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer 2, Brian Henderson, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Mark A. Scialdo, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Stephen P. Blass, United States Army. Specialist Zachary L. Shannon, United States Army. Captain Andrew M. Peterson Keel, United States Army. Private First Class Casey James Holmes, United States Marine Corps. Lieutenant Valerie Capillari Delaney, United States Navy. Lieutenant Commander Alan Ashley Patterson, United States Navy. Lieutenant Junior Grade William Brown McIlvain III, United States Navy.
Specialist David T. Proctor, United States Army. Commander Joseph Benjamin Torres, United States Navy. Specialist Michael Joseph Hickey, United States Army. Specialist Amber Elizabeth Bostain, United States Army. Specialist Jeffrey Adam Sampson, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer 2, James E. Groves III, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Gabriel Niclovio Ramirez, United States Air Force. Seaman Jeremy Christopher Little, United States Navy. Captain Max Kungle, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Roberto Rihanna, United States Army. Specialist Eric Stephen Bogner, United States Army. Sergeant Derek Trey McDonald, United States Army. Lance Corporal David Paul Fenn II, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Aaron Joel Raparda, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal William Taylor Wild IV, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Mason Joseph Vanderwerk, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Joseph C. Taylor, United States Marine Corps.
Lance Corporal Joshua Michael Martino, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer 2, Pasquale Antonio Trezani Jr.,
United States Navy. Senior Airman Thomas Edward Richardson III, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Roger Wolf Muchnick Jr., United States Marine Corps. Sergeant First Class James Floyd Grissom, United States Army. Lance Corporal Sarah Castromona, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Jacob Lee Woolley, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Tristan M. Wade, United States Army. Petty Officer 2, Ralph Joseph Tollin III, United States Navy. Senior Chief Petty Officer Edward Franklin Kruger, United States Navy. Petty Officer 1 N. Bell, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Morgan Louise Kavanaugh, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Matthew Lee Dennison, United States Air Force. Chief Petty Officer Michael George Boldzisser, United States Navy. Corporal Derek Lee Edgener, United States Marine Corps Reserves. Sergeant First Class Brian Keith Riley, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Richard David Tarmy, United States Army. Sergeant Christopher James Hens, United States Army. Sergeant Dustin Dale Schmidt, United States Army. Specialist Lorraine Jackson, United States Army. Sergeant Michael C. Cable, United States Army. Specialist Scott G. Warfield, United States Army. Chief Petty Officer Brett David Shadle, United States Navy. Sergeant Larry James Stewart, Jr., United States Army. PFC Daquan DeMontes Ism, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer 2, Curtis S. Reagan, United States Army. Airman First Class David Michael Thor Diostin, United States Air Force. Seaman Samuel Carl Schindler, United States Navy. Petty Officer 2, John William Carroll, United States Navy. Seaman Matthew Charles Snow, United States Navy.
Before I close this, I'm going to give an opportunity for those in the room. If you are here and did not hear a name called that is somebody that your family member or somebody knew, I'd like to give you an opportunity to call out loud the name of anyone from any generation, whether it be from the War on Terror or from previous years, to call a name out loud so that we might honor them all together with those that we read. So if anyone has a family member, a friend, a neighbor, a community, someone from the community who may have been lost, and chiefs back there, I would include officers if you'd like, your officers. But we'll just take a moment now. Is there anybody that would like to call a name out loud? Yes, ma'am.
James W. Pell, Sergeant in the U.S. Army.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just raise your hand, I'll recognize you. Any generation? Yes, sir.
Sergeant Derek Wallace, United States Army. Colonel Lawrence Dahl, United States Army.
Yes, sir.
Senior Chief James E. Hallmark, United States Navy.
Thank you. Anyone else? Don't be shy. Sometimes we hold names in here, and we very seldom ever speak them out loud, fully. It's a powerful thing to be able to call a name of someone who means so much. One more? Anyone else? Okay. We just bow our heads.
Paul has that.
Go ahead, Paul.
Gunnery Sergeant Justin Robert Martoni, U.S. Marine Corps, 3706 in Iraq.
Thank you, dear. we just bow our heads for a moment of silence as we think about the names that we read tonight and ran for, and those spoken, and the thousands yet to read ahead, and the families that they represent. Amen. Amen. Please be seated. I mentioned that, our heroes are gone, and we recognize and honor the families because they're the ones who we want to make sure know we haven't forgotten. And those are our Gold Star families. Our definition of a Gold Star family may be different than some, but as an organization, our definition is any family who's lost a loved one in any capacity while serving or as a result of serving. If there was a cause of death that resulted from serving after service, then we honor those families as well. So anybody in the room, I know there are families in here, I haven't met you, but if you are a Gold Star family, would you please stand up? So that we might recognize you. Thank you for being here. Who is your loved one?
He'll be read tomorrow.
What is it?
Michael Johns. He's on mile 23 tomorrow.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. And where did you come from?
Indiana.
Thank you for being here. Amanda, food time? You have someone to pray? Is there anyone in here who would like to pray for dinner? You would?
Yes.
Please.
All right, you got your next place. Dear God, you brought us together through tragic circumstances, whether they are brothers and sisters in arms or strangers or family. But we are here together now to remember them and honor them the way that we honor and thank you for your sacrifices and your love for us. Amen.
Amen. Chiefs, I want to say one thing. Today as we ran, we carried 4 flags. You may not have seen us. Hopefully you'll see us tomorrow. We carry our U.S. flag, obviously, because we're running in the United States for our United States heroes. We carry the state flag that we're in because we're honoring the state as we're coming through. We carry a flag we created 3 years ago on the 15th anniversary of 9/11, which is for our fallen firefighters and police officers. So we carry that flag, and we'll show it to you because you have our backs on the road, and we want you to know that we have not forgotten your brothers and sisters. Even though we might not be calling them out loud by name, we're remembering them as we run. And the Honor and Remember flag, what we carried for, obviously represents all of our fallen military. And so I just want to point that out because I don't want to get that lost in the group as we're socializing. So, thank you. Dan will be able to accommodate you. Runners. Runners what?
The runners for today.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. I know, I always forget that. This is really important. I don't keep you from eating, but I have a core team that's been traveling, as was mentioned by Amanda, that have been dedicated to pulling this together, making it effective every single day, and dedicating, 5 months of their life. If you guys will just stand and be recognized, please. Remember, those from Amanda's team from Alabama who's just been giving us fresh legs and speed, and that last hill, I can't even imagine. Almost a mile and a half, and they ran it the whole time. I didn't see one person walking that entire time. So if you are a part of not just that mile, but our day, would you stand up, please, as well? Out there who volunteered, they didn't run, but if you didn't stand and you were a volunteer in any capacity,